Welcome to the ninth episode of season 2 of E Says, P Says, your bi-weekly dose of Black love. My name is Ellyn for the E.
My name is Paul for the P. For those of you tuning in for the first time, we decided to start this podcast to celebrate a milestone in our relationship. 35 years of wedded bliss, and now we will be married for 37 years as of 4/22/26. Every other week, we'll share a part of our relationship with you so you can see what has brought us this far and will take us even further. Before we get into today's episode, let me say Happy New Year. I know it's late, but here we are. So let's start with a moment of gratitude. I am grateful for my beautiful wife and my beautiful family. I'm grateful for being able to start off the year healthy, or as healthier than I was last year. So I'm grateful for that, and really looking forward to a more positive and healthier new year. And Ellyn, what are you grateful for?
Well, I too am grateful that we're here to see another year, especially you, and that you are standing on both feet instead of laying down. So that's
Amen.
a wonderful thing. And I'm also grateful for our family and our children and their partners. We spent some time with both sets of kids this holiday, and it's always nice to, I won't say reap the rewards, but see the fruits of your labor. I'll put it to you that way. And how wonderful it can turn out to be, because when you're parenting, you never know what's going to come back to you.
That's true. Yeah, so we are both very grateful for our children and how successful they've become. So,
And previously we discussed loss and life getting off track because of health. Is everyone staying on track? If you missed out, please take a listen to season 2, episodes 6 and 8. And if you're a newbie, welcome, and please subscribe so you can catch up and listen to all of our episodes. This week, we are going to discuss 10 bucket list items we have as a couple. This should be interesting because we may have talked about one or two of these things, but never 10.
So let me begin. So number 10, for our children to graduate from college with little debt, move out, and be independent. This is on the checklist, especially for our for our eldest. He has been out of the house for over 10 years, married and working in the education field. Our youngest is slowly making his path too. So, little pats on our backs for this one. It is also thanks to their hard work that they each earned scholarships for their education. And we did not have to come out of pocket for much. And each was able to graduate with their bachelor's and little debt. Our oldest also was able to obtain a master's in teaching degree. Let me tell you, child, let me tell you something. My wife's social butterfly habits cost me a lot of student loan money. At one point, they even defaulted. That was when those banks came at you hard.
Number 9, travel to Europe, Asia, Africa, and Australia. I truly wished we would have had the funds to do the traveling when we were younger. However, at least now we can do it first class and be comfy.
Number 8, more cruises. After many, many years of marriage, we celebrated our 30th anniversary with a cruise. Ellyn had been on a cruise when she was younger and kept sharing with me how much fun it was. Now that I have been, I cannot wait to get on another.
Number 7, successful podcast and book launch. launches. I truly enjoy working with my husband. It is wonderful to share our story, especially for those aspiring for longevity in marriage or relationship. And I'm so proud of my hubby completing part one of his story and now working on part two. And let me tell you, if you have read part one, then hold on to your seat because part two is going to be even better. We are also working on some joint projects with about some helpful marriage tips for those looking for more guidance when it comes to marriage.
Number 6, retiring and either becoming a snow bunny or relocating closer to the water. Growing up in Los Angeles, you are surrounded by the ocean and there are beaches on every corner, so to speak. So I love the water and would like to be near a nice beach in my latter years. Ellen doesn't really like the beach so much, but she loves the ambiance and will go to the beach every now and then.
Number 5, becoming debt free and living comfortably and joyfully till the end. This one we are still working on, and there are things we are working on that are making it possible to accomplish this goal.
Number 4, possibly living out of the country long term. This is something that we discuss on a bi-weekly basis, and I am ready to go.
uh, Now that one I'll tap in on. There are times I'm quite sure, with all the current, I just call it the current crazy in America, that I try not to um bombard myself with too much, but things pop up. My husband is subscribed to some state newspapers and other things, and stuff will just pop up. And you read it and you're like, oh God, no, no, God, no. And in those moments, I'm like, where's my suitcase? I've had enough. And I know leaving is not always the answer. However, we've reached season years. I write you a check and send a letter. I'm not getting out in the streets marching and speaking anymore. So, and I can do that wherever I want to be. And number 3, doing yearly trips with our children and their partners and getting to know them as adults. Most definitely, we are currently in discussion on doing a cross country trip and return because I have never been completely cross country and been able to stop at historical monuments and enjoy this great country of ours. LOL. However, the Mr. has, and I believe he discussed it briefly in season 1. I'm sure that he will refresh your memory now, or you can listen to the episode in season 1. I think it was he how we met, one of those episodes. One is her story and one is his story. In his story he talks about his travel cross country.
And let me just talk about traveling cross country. Yes, I have traveled across country. And, it's funny. It's a lot of things that you see, when you travel across country, particularly me being a young black man at the time. I remember when we had a layover, well, really a stop in Utah. And so I went to a convenience store and I wanted to get something to drink. So I handed the man my money, and then when he gave me my change, he put it on the counter. He didn't put it in my hand. So me being young, and green, I didn't really understand what that meant. But then as I became older, I realized what that meant. He basically didn't like people of my hue. So very interesting. I stopped in Mississippi. I tell you what, when we were in Mississippi, I was in Meridian, Mississippi. And it was dark out there. And I'm gonna tell you guys, I felt like I could feel it. When I walked off the bus, I took 2 steps and I walked right back on the bus because it was shadowy out there. And you seemed like it was smoke coming about the ground. And I was like, "Are these my ancestors talking to me?" And I just got back on the bus. So I shouldn't have been afraid, but I was. So I had some reservations about traveling across country with my wife, particularly traveling via a car. But since if we had the children come, we have other drivers, so I'm more open to it now. It used to be if I was going cross country, because I had dealt with it before several times. I was like, look, I'm flying, but she's I've kind of warmed up to it the more and more she's explained it and her reasoning for wanting to go. So yeah, I'm on board with that. So let's talk about number 2, getting healthy, eating better, and moving more.
That's it.
Those are pretty major for me.
Well,
I think all three, and I think I'm accomplishing all three. Everything is a work in progress, but I'm getting better. I'm getting healthier. I'm eating a lot better, and I'm moving better. So, and that's a good thing.
well, we had a lot of unexpected movement this past weekend. If y'all met that snow, and Facebook will bring you back to reality real quick. I had a picture, and I didn't realize that it had been that long 10 years ago when we had a similar snowstorm. However, the difference was this was more ice and not as much snow. I had pictures on Facebook, and there was snow like up to our door, like the threshold of the door. Like you could peek over the snow, and then after it was dug out, it was that high because there was no place for the snow to go.
Mhm.
And yeah, that was the year that our youngest was at home at the time, and I did not realize how people with claustrophobia react. And I was talking to him because he opened the door and he couldn't open it. And I'm walking around, I'm just chilling in my, I'm a New Yorker. Snow is snow. Where you going? Can't go anywhere. So he is freaking out. So finally, it dawned on me he can't hear what I'm saying because there were several ways to get out the house. We got windows in the kitchen. He could have jumped right on out the window. We had decks back in the back. There was so much snow he could have jumped off the deck. I said, if you don't feel comfortable going upstairs, you could jump on out there. I mean, it was enough snow that it would have broke his fall. But all he could concentrate on was he couldn't get out that front door. So finally, I was like, okay. So I called my son and said, put on your snow pants and stuff, and go out back, and come around and dig out the front of the house. I said, because otherwise, we not gonna have no peace, and we gonna have to call the fire department because your father's losing it. So he went out there, and it took a while. So I'm looking at him, and I'm looking in the back, and I'm looking at him because I hadn't looked in the back when I asked my son to go out there. So finally, I said about 10, it probably felt like longer, but it was probably 10, 15 minutes. My son came around the front, and he was like, oh my God, I almost died. And so I looked back after he said that. The snow was just as deep in the backyard. Our backyard is like in the valley. So all that snow was just piled up. And when he jumped in, he was like, I'm just jumping and just diving into the snow. Now, mind you, all of my 2 sons and my husband, everybody's 6 feet. So that's a lot of snow if a 6-footer is jumping and dropping down like that. So he got him out, and I told him, I said, if I known that snow was out there, you would have just had to call the fire department because I wasn't sending my baby back out there to save your life and lose his.
He did it. He did it. I appreciate
But he did it.
So,
yes, and of course my son and I laughed. I know we're bad about that, but we something's wrong with us. I know.
All right. So moving forward. So now we're at, and now for our mock minute. Today our sponsor is Ease Tees, and to show how much we love it, we are wearing our E Says P Says hoodies. Boy, are they warm on these cold, cold days. Nice and comfy too.
Soft.
Soft and very soft. So check out our store. We will put the link in the comment section. Today's topic is something that I feel.
Well, it's more me than him, but
okay, I'll let her, Mrs. introduce this one, and then I'll jump in.
So it's something that I feel. I'm not sure if he feels the same way. So I was listening to an episode of Trevor Noah's podcast on YouTube of What's Now. And I realized, I said, I feel homeless as an African American or Black person in America. So at that moment, I realized the Hawaiians and the Samoans have their hakas. Africans that are in Africa or coming to Africa from coming to the American shores from Africa now, they have their tribal songs, rituals, and dances. And Native Americans have their dances and rituals. And we don't, because we were brought here and kind of out here, we don't have that connection to our homeland like other what are they other cultures do. And that's how I feel, just me. And I sometimes I just feel uncomfortable in my Black skin because we have turned a lot of the traditions of the majority class into ours, but they are not ours.
So I'm gonna respond to that.
And the reason he's going to respond, and the reasoning is when Lupita Nyong'o and Trevor were on there, she was discussing how she was getting ready to stop the podcast. What Now? That's with Trevor Noah. So she was saying how in her acting career before everything broke, I think it was 12 Years a Slave, and she blew up. She wanted to go back home. And the difference of when she goes back home, she was saying, I'm surrounded by my people. Everybody looks like me. My parents were like, come home. And I was like, that must be so comforting to go someplace and be home and look at people that look like you. The, when you say to an American or a person, a African or a Black American, whatever you want to be called, go home, the only home you know is either your parents' place or your place or whatever. And the people you see don't all look like you. So that's why I felt that homeless part.
So let me just say to you, finish.
Yeah, I'm done.
I empathize with what my wife is saying, but I want to say something. And hopefully I don't speak too long. But I'm going to say, this is the first one I'm going to pose this question. Who is more American than Black Americans? Now, I'm going to tell you what I mean by that. And even though we are part of the diaspora, what I'm going to say is this. If you think about America, Black Americans have fought in every war that this country's ever had, starting from the Revolutionary War. Our blood, up until even current present conflicts, we fought in the Spanish-American War. We fought in the Civil War. We fought in World War I, World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam. We fought in the Grenadian conflict. We have fought in Desert Storms 1 and 2. Some of us are still overseas in Afghanistan. When I mean us, I mean Black Americans. What I want Black folk to understand is that we didn't treat ourselves as second-class citizens. We were treated as second-class citizens. Remember, in the Constitution, it said we were 3/5 of a person. So we weren't even considered an entire person. I want Black people to understand, and I understand the feeling that many Blacks are feeling, but because a lot of times people say, "Well, you need to go home." Go where? Where we going? Some of us are from West Africa. Some of us, but most of us are from West Africa. A lot of us, because that's where the slaves, a lot of them came from. Many of us was dropped off in Brazil, or we were dropped off in the Caribbean, and then here in the United States. But I want Black Americans to feel. I know sometimes you don't feel like you have a home, and this is addressing my wife too, because of a lot of things that we see in the media, stuff like that. But I want Black Americans to understand, all right, and to that you have every right to every opportunity that is available in this country. Now, what am I trying to say? I want you to understand that your ancestors, our ancestors, blood is in the cotton fields, the railroads, the battlefields of this country. We have earned every right to call this home. I don't care what other people view us, how they view us, how they think about us. I could care less. We have fought. Our ancestors have fought. Black women have seen. I want people to understand now the history. Now, I'm not trying to go too far. You know, Black women used to have to watch their husbands be hung, and their children would have to be there and watch it. So this is why, you know, I say that we deserve everything that happens that we are supposed to get in America. I don't have a problem with reparations. People, oh, what? I don't have a problem with it. And what's wrong with reparations for Black people? We helped build the country. A lot of things that right now are going on in the United States wouldn't even have it if it wasn't for a Black person. Okay, so a lot of the patents that are out here were stolen from Black people. All right, I know people don't want to hear this, but I'm gonna say it because it seems like everybody got something to say about Black people. We're not doing what we should do, and this and that. So I'm gonna speak up on it. 'Cause I don't want my wife or my children or any kids I've ever taught to ever feel like they don't belong here in this country because we have our ancestors and our people have died, been hung on trees, missing jail for no reason, uh, falsely accused. Even today, we got Black people being falsely accused and being thrown in jail or being killed. Look at this Sheriff Macy that killed this Black woman. He got 20 years. He killed her in cold blood. Okay, 20 years. That's an injustice.
It may be an injustice, but finally people are getting punished for it.
Yeah, but
'Cause there's a time when we were growing up as kids, it was happening on a regular, and everybody was out marching, and nothing was happening.
true. But I just want people to understand. I'm a Black American. I'm a proud Black American. I don't have a problem with being a Black American. My people have died and fought for this country and sacrificed to help build this country. And again, I'm gonna go back and say, who is more American than Black people in America? Who? You tell me who. If we want to talk about Italians and Irish who came here, well, they were here after us. They got here after we were here. We already would help build the country. Yeah, it's still some of them came here. I want you to understand too. If you understand history now, okay, some of them were brought here because those who were in power, they didn't want Blacks to be in certain positions. So they had to get more. They had to whiten up the country. Now I want people to read history and understand what happened. Okay, you don't have to agree or not, but it's in the history book. Okay, because they didn't want the country to be too dark, and that's why they wanted it.
Well,
They had people here who can do these jobs.
well, why would you go get people that don't look like you? And then I believe the expectation was that we were going to be enslaved forever.
Right.
So,
But I want
okay.
people to understand history in America. Why are we running from it? This is what's wrong with the country now. This is why we can't, right now, America could be so much greater than it is. We are so caught up in separating ourselves from each other. It's not that Black people want to be separated. We basically being forced to be separated. Okay? So the thing is, how's that making America great? Again, using somebody's slogan. How's that helping America? How is it? We're not using the talent that we have in the country because we're so enamored with race. We're so caught up in race that we can't get beyond it as a country. We got people that can't get health care. They fight over health care. Why? Why? Europe been had this stuff. Some of these things, Europe is already, we're behind. America's behind when it comes to certain things. And I know people say, oh my God, Paul is really going up. I'm telling you, we are behind when it comes to the way we treat our populace in the United States of America. We can treat our people so much better. We have the resources. There's only 350 million people in America. I want people to understand that.
Well,
China got over 1 billion people. How does China, in certain regions, many regions, have a better standard of living than the people in the United States? People, please understand and pay attention to what's going on around you. Don't let people get away with mistreating you. I don't care if you're black, white, green, or blue. People are being mistreated in this country. We got senior citizens who can't pay rent. We got senior citizens who can't afford food. We got veterans who can't get health care. Why? In this country as rich as America is, nobody should be hungry or homeless in America. You got rents being quadrupled on people. People going trying to get places. If you try to get a month to month, they double in the rent, quadruple in the rent. How's that fair? That's not fair, but this is what's happening in America. I want y'all to understand what's going on. Okay?
well,
And nobody's holding these people accountable. They're just doing what they want to do.
I concur with a lot of the statements that are coming out of his mouth. However, all I said was I didn't feel like I was home. I didn't say I'm not disregarding or unremembering or forgetting all of the things that we as a people, oppressed or not oppressed, have given and laid our lives down for in this America to deserve the treatment, better treatment than we are receiving.
And let me just say,
I just said that it must be nice. Like, Trevor Noah, when he goes home, he's looking at people that look like him. When Lupita Nyong'o goes home, she's surrounded by people that look like her. And when she goes out, she's not seeing like
they don't have sundown towns.
Yes.
Anywhere he's from.
No, well,
so
I don't
hear here in America, certain towns you can't go in. If you right here in America, right here. I'm sorry, dear, I gotta say this. Right here in America. This is why you don't feel you're at home. Right here in America, here in the United States, you have sundown towns. You got Amazon truck drivers and different places, Walmart. They don't want to go in certain. These guys have their own private trucks or whatever. Who drive these big trucks? They don't want to go in certain towns at nighttime because when it's dark, your life is at risk. Why we got this going on in the United States of America
in 2026?
Why?
And I believe it or not, people believe that when you grow up in New York, you know everything. There's a lot of stuff that every area has their own little things. I'm not saying that New York was a bastion of mixed, a melting pot and everybody got along.
Right.
We had some issues in some places and things of going on just the way that every other place goes. But until you move to a different area and people having different conversations, you don't know. I was like, what is the I think I was watching Lovecraft Country, and sometimes my husband and my older son are more of the historians in the family. I was like, what is a sundown town? I mean, some things because they are black specific, you don't want to Google because you don't want to get the watered down version. So you ask a person that knows more. So usually it's my husband or my son. And when it was broken down to me, I was like, wow. And like we're having conversations with friends, and one of our friends was a salesperson, made great money. But when he first came to the state of Maryland, there were areas that he would go to. He said it wasn't the shopkeepers, it was the customers. And he said it's been said to him several times. It's getting dark. You don't need to be here around when it gets dark. And I'm quite sure some words and other things were used. And he was like, you don't have to worry about it. I'm getting in my car and I'm going home right now.
Yeah, but see that.
And all that man was trying to do was work and take care of his family. He wasn't bothering anybody.
I want people to understand you have people working. I'm talking about black people who are working. And they're doing deliveries from Amazon and different companies. And they're being threatened. Their lives are being threatened. Postal workers are being threatened.
When you want your packages?
Okay. But it's UPS.
Well, you can go get the job.
This is what's happening right now in the United States of America.
They have the test.
Who is stopping anybody from being successful in the United States of America, unless they're using racism or classism or something like that, or ageism. But I'm saying, for the most part, if you work your ass off, you can be successful in America. So it ain't gonna always work out how you want it to. It may take a little longer to get it, but if you bust your butt, okay, you can get what you want. You have to be willing to work. Now, unfortunately, with me, I think I did it a little bit too hard, and it ended up impacting my health. But that's what happens sometimes when you burn the candle at both ends. It could impact your health. But the point I'm trying to make, and I just want to make sure I bring this point home. If you're willing to put the time in, you can be successful in America. In my opinion, America is the greatest country in the world. We still got issues that need to be resolved because we got unrealized human potential in the country that can't come to fruition because of racism or poverty. And why or they don't have a place to live. Kids are living from pillar to post, living nomadic existences. Their families are living like nomads. So how are we going to develop young people when they're struggling like that and their families are struggling? So we've got to do something as a country. We got to do better, okay, as a country.
Well, that was our little bit of doing better, because when this goes live, that'll be interesting. Another thing that I
have... you wanted the podcast. You got one.
I don't know.
This is saying I don't want to
he's not
offend anybody. I'm just want to understand. If you're going to do a podcast, you got to be transparent.
Well, this is true.
Everything can't be scripted, and sometimes you got to come with emotion and your feelings. And again, I'll reiterate, I do love the United States of America. However, we still have faults in America, and we've got to do better as a country. Why do you think we have other countries outpacing us?
I can't disagree.
We allow ourselves to be outpaced because we got this racism and this poverty blocking everything. We got to let people come to their full potential. And people walk around with like albatrosses because they got student loans. How's that helping the country? They can't buy homes. So how's that helping the United States? How's that helping the economy?
It's not.
And there are other countries with education, you can go, as long as you do well on an exam, you can go for free.
Yeah.
So how are we helping the United States? How's the United States helping itself? Yeah, we complaining about people with HB visas coming over here. Well, they gotta come over here with HB visas if we don't have the talent here. I just want people to understand that people getting mad about immigration, this and that. Well, we gotta have people that's willing to do the job, but they can do the job. Okay. And that's the bottom line. So you can't kick everybody out the country. You're not gonna have nobody to work in the fields or to do some of this construction work. A lot of these people are not illegal. They have temporary status as well. I want people to understand that. Don't believe everything you see. Okay? There are people that have been paroled into the country. They help with seasonal work, or to help in certain areas where we don't have the people to do the work, or the people that's trained to do it. So let's be honest about all this stuff.
I won't say that may.
I'm not saying every job. There's a lot of jobs that Americans are not trained to do.
No, now that I will agree with. And the other thing
are not willing to do,
because we've seen it blow up several times. Because in New York, they tried to get teachers from Spain and the Philippines. And it doesn't work.
Baltimore, Philippines, they try to do it for the Philippines.
Yeah, because one thing is when you bring somebody from another country where the children have deference and respect, even in my sister taught when she was getting her master's and her doctorate, she taught in Africa, and there's deference and respect for teachers. Even if you're the worst teacher in the world, they respect you. Even if you're the nastiest teacher in the world, it's teacher, yes, the teacher, yes.
And a lot of those countries, I mean, it's true. The family structure is different too.
Well, yeah,
so it's more security. They might not have as much money there, but they got more security there. The mother and the father's together. They got a home to go back to. There's structure in the home. when they go to school. You could tell when they in school, they come in, they might them little chalkboards in front of them, and they attentive, and they don't got a lot of those countries in Africa. They don't have computers right in front of them,
No.
so they don't have laptops. Not saying I'm just saying in some, especially particularly in the rural areas. But go in the classroom. It could be 100 students in there. You can hear a church. You can hear a mouse. You can't even hear a mouse in there. I'm telling you, it's that quiet. That's how much they respect education. We got to learn here in the United States to, first of all, to respect education, respect our teachers here in the United States. I'm not just saying this because I'm a teacher. All right. But if you want people to keep, if you want teachers to keep teaching, you better tell your students, parents, and parents too, you need to respect the teachers. They work hard to get these certificates and these degrees. It's not easy to do. I've done it. It's hard to do it. And then even when you go in the classroom, there's a lot that you have to do. All right. So this, be aware of that. I think we've gotten to a point that now we just take the teachers for granted in America. Everybody can't teach. It's a craft.
Yes, I mean we've all been subject to teachers that could not teach. So we all know that some people can be the most educated person in the world, but they can't transfer that knowledge to a child in a way that
doctorates and they can teach on the college level. When they get into high school, they struggle because it's a different type of way to relay that information. You got to relay that information different, and they're not used to doing it. They don't understand certain things like universal design and addressing the kids' senses and the six senses or whatever. So they haven't even been trained like teachers have. The best teachers are elementary teachers. Those are the best people that trained me. They were women who were in the elementary schools, and they were the best teachers. They taught me everything I knew. No, as far as teaching.
Some of that stuff you came with too.
Well, true.
Some of because you went into teaching as a second career.
Yeah.
So some of the jobs that you had you were more attuned to reacting to people and figuring out how to get something from them when it didn't benefit them.
Right.
So I think a lot of people don't have that. And when I'm, a lot of
benefited them too. It did benefit them in a lot of ways, but they didn't think so at the time, especially kids. Like, why am I doing this, Mr. Mom?
Well, that's what I'm saying. With the person, when you're standing up there but you've had, I mean, so I won't discuss your previous job, but in one of your positions, you were asking people to pay money that they didn't want to pay. So when you're used to doing stuff like that, so you're standing in front of, unfortunately, 30, 40, 70 kids, sadly. Yeah, 70 kids. I said 70 kids.
Yeah.
And none of them want to be there. So you have to figure out how to impart information to 70, well, I'll say 60 out of the 70 kids because they don't want to be there.
Right.
So that's a skill. And a lot of times I think people go into teaching, I don't know, with butterfly glasses on, thinking that, all the stuff that they've learned, they're going to get into the classroom and all the kids are just going to be happy to see them. Unfortunately, even when we were in school, it wasn't like that. We were never happy to see the teacher. It was just like, I don't know whether it's an American thing or just a kid thing.
Yeah.
We just didn't, it was like, my parents woke me up to come out in the cold to listen to you and your dry self tell me about math, reading, etc., and so forth. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be bothered with you. So, and unfortunately, a lot of incidents have happened with teachers. A lot of teachers and children that a lot of people don't respect teachers the way that they used to.
Right.
So you don't, and not saying that stuff wasn't happening when we were kids, but it seems like maybe because it's getting out there, it seems like it's more now.
Yeah.
So people don't give that deference because sometimes some of these teachers haven't earned it. And then sometimes, having male children, not so much with our oldest, I don't think. Well, maybe a little bit with both of them. There were issues with the teacher that they were treated in a way, and sometimes I think teachers do their jobs in a way that if a child has a two parent or attentive household, those are the parents that they contact.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
When your child sneezes wrong, they contact you.
Yeah.
When and then you go and you visit the class and you like, oh, all hell's breaking loose in here, and you called me.
Right. Like your kids are problem.
Yes.
But really, it's the management.
Yes.
Students, that's the problem.
Yes. But why didn't you call the other children's parents?
Right.
Because some of them may not respond to you the way my husband or I would, and that's not a good way to run a class.
No. Even though I do want to know what's going on.
Yes.
In those instances, I'm glad that I did go up to the school and watch, observe.
Yeah, because I mean, there was one time, and when I mentioned that particular scenario, our oldest son, the teacher called, I think, once or twice, and I was like, I'm gonna go up here and a note to parents: if you ever gonna observe teachers, don't call. Right. Just show up. Yep. Go to the principal's office and say you want to observe your child, whatever class. Because when you show up, the teacher's on notice and everybody gonna behave. Yep. So when you just show up, they like, oh.
True.
So
very important.
Yes. So I just showed up and I went in and I sat down, and it was so bad. You know when something it was so bad. I was like, hey, dear. And he was like, yes. I said, I know, we all wear glasses in here. I said, but maybe I didn't see what I thought I saw. You need to go up there. So he went up there and we compared notes. He was like, yeah, it was crazy as hell in there. And he called us. And I think after my husband went to observe, he had a conversation. Needless to say, the man never called us again.
Right.
But because I was like, it was. I've never seen worse classroom management. But
so now, so we are at.
So the other we got into the minutia of America.
Yes.
So we got a little out there, but some of the things that I have done to help me feel more at home is we did our family reunion.
Yeah.
And a lot of the second and third generations don't really know who we are. So that gave us information about, who we are, where we come from. And I did my ancestry, and my oldest son, in typical mock fashion, oh, you're a lot blacker than I thought. And it's like, I have no control over my heritage. I do believe on my maternal side, my grandfather is half white. So what can I do about that? I can't do anything about that. It's gonna pop up.
Right.
There's gonna be some European.
So number one.
And then the other thing, to make it more, some holiday traditions that we have started as a family is, even with my larger relatives, my aunts and uncles, we always did Thanksgiving at an aunt or uncle's house when I was younger. Mm-hmm. And Christmas for Christmas on my father's side, we would go to my uncle and grandfather for the Christmas. And what we do with our kids is usually, since they're older now, when they were younger, we would get together and we would go to New York for Thanksgiving because that's where most of the family is.
Yeah.
And then we would go to New York for Christmas. And our youngest was like, why I got to leave my house and my gifts to watch everybody else open up theirs, and I got to wait till after Christmas. So after that, we started leaving either Christmas Eve later and allowing them to open their gifts. So we would leave Christmas Day earlier so that they could open their stuff before we would go. And then now that the kids are grown and gone, we usually do some type of dinner or physical activity a couple of times a year.
Right.
So we can just, get together and have fun as a family. And this year, our oldest son and his wife showed up. It was brief, but it was good to see them. It's always good to see your kid.
Right.
And my youngest, him and his girlfriend and their little dog Coco, we usually see them at least once a month or so. But I think that's a distance thing. They're closer.
Yeah.
So we get to see them more.
Right.
So hopefully, as we go into 2026, we will see our family more, and I'll continue to figure out more ways to feel at home. But after Paul's conversation, I don't know how I feel anymore.
So number 1, Ellyn.
So continuing to enjoy our lovely relationship for another 35 years, and to keep laughing and loving our way through this thing called life.
So our disclaimer, we are not therapists. I'm going to say that again. We are not therapists. Just hoping to help others through our crazy love story. Shout out to everyone who took a few moments out of their day to listen. We hope that anything you heard was helpful.
And is there someone or some cause in your life that has gone beyond expectations or given more than expected? I've been watching SB mowing on YouTube. Something about the mowing of the grass is soothing, and him getting some of the unkempt yards together is so satisfying. And he does it for free. And he is quite young to be so generous to others. There are quite a few others online that do the same thing, but SB mowing caught my eye. He also has helped an elderly woman named Beth by not only cutting her lawn, but setting up a GoFundMe so she could stay in her home. If you like a Good Samaritan channel and are soothed by mowing the yard transformations, check out SB Mowing on YouTube. Well, you can also show your appreciation by giving your time, talent, or funds to them or us. And please feel free to share who or whom you appreciate. It feels good to say thanks. Or you can send a note or leave one on one of our social media platforms to thank someone you know working hard at whatever it is that they do that is making lasting change in their field or world. If you know someone who'd love to listen, please ask them and you to check out our website, mockmediagroup.com, where you can subscribe and listen to all things Mock. If you like this content, we love your support if you like this content, we love your support in improving the show. Donate at buymeacoffee.com/Mock Media Group to help cover hosting costs, gear upgrades, and other podcast related costs. And this will allow us to have more time to create great content for you. And make sure to subscribe on any platform you listen to podcasts so you don't miss an episode.
Thanks for joining us this week on E Says, P Says, your bi-weekly dose of Black. You can also check us out and keep up with us on our social media platforms, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Mock Media Group. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast on your preferred platform so that you don't miss any of our episodes. And feel free to leave any questions or comments on one of our social media platforms. See you in 2 weeks.
1,